Hey everyone, welcome to this Quick Start Basics class. Okay, are we recording? Awesome. Okay, welcome everyone to this Quick Start Basics class. Sunday night within the school, the MLM Millionaire Academy. So this class is actually tonight's going to be a recap of the Cores 1 to 5, and we're super excited to join together tonight, to be together tonight. Our goal is to equip and empower you and entertain and educate you on the basics of building your network marketing business. The goal of the school is to teach you how to build a strong and profitable business. And before we get started, I want to let you know what's coming up. Tomorrow is our MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, where we cover one of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And tomorrow is law number 11, the law of the inner circle. This really applies to network marketers because you want to be working with your best people, give them the most attention. And Wednesday night, of course, is our MLM Leadership University, our inner circle within this school, where we study and discuss one of John Maxwell's books every month. In December, we're covering this wonderful book, which is Everyone Communicates, You Connect. So this is essential to building your network marketing business. Some of you are in the class, and if you would like more information, just private message me about that, or look in the Facebook group, because we always have a link in there for more information about that. You do get a discount for being in this class to get into that class. So connecting, that's how we build a business. That's the whole thing. So very important in network marketing. And Tuesday night is a Real Conversations class, and this is a coaching class to uncover what's really needed behind how to solve any problem real quickly, including any block in your network marketing business or even in your life, which can affect your business. So this is a private class that I teach at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and it definitely, network marketers come on, but everyone can too. It's definitely to unkink the blocks that wherever you find them in your business. You can get on there, get coached. Can be anonymously if you want. It's not recorded for privacy, so it's an open coaching class and session. You're welcome to private me for information about that too. So this class is actually designed to make you six figures, the class that you're in now. And this is an investment to your success in network marketing. We cover how to always get a yes in prospecting, how to bulletproof your business, the easiest way to get top earning recruiters, how to prevent attrition, how to overcome fear, how to never run out of people to talk to, and the easiest way that we've ever found to prospect and recruit people and eliminate objections and duplicate and fill events, and how to get your team self-sufficient running without you. So there I've just sort of summed up the 10 core commitments, not in the name of them, but in the benefit to you and your business. So tonight we're actually covering the first 5, a recap of the first 5, which is about getting started right, be here a year from now, personal development, market daily, present daily. So we're covering a recap of that, and we're going to be asking you for your feedback too, and your interaction. What you liked best about the class, what are your goals, and what can we do better, what can you do better? So this might even be a great time to look over this year and anticipate what can be better for next year. And so anything else here? Think we're ready? Be sure, as always, to keep track of the classes that you attend because of the certifications that we give out. So right now, Jim and Pasha are leading with, they're working on their level 6. So every time you attend or see a replay of this class, you get a certificate level. There are 10 in all. So Jim and Pasha are working on 6. David Roeder's working on number 5. You guys are leading the pack. Awesome. Becky, I think you should be having some more coming up, right? Because you're on nearly all these calls. So that's your job, though, to keep track of that and let us know, to issue a certificate within the Facebook group. And right now, let's dive into our recap. Over to you, Jeff.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
Yep.
All right, guys, so halfway through, what we've covered basically is, 5 topics getting started right. Again, getting started right is not necessarily for the new person that joins your team as much as it is for you, because what you do is what you end up turning around and teaching. And what you have to do is kind of, now that most of you have been in whatever you've been doing for a while, you have to ask yourself, hey, did I get started? Did I get started right? And if I was to get started again the right way, what would that look like? How would I get up and rolling? Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to tell people, because people are like, well, how long have you been doing this? I mean, you can actually say, I actually just started. I'm a month into actually doing something. The date at which you signed up and the date at which you start doing it can be 2 different dates. And it's very common for that to happen. Actually, for those of you who don't know, most people in network marketing do not get going day 1. Now, that's what they always sell from the front of the room. That's what they always sell at the big trainings. Oh my gosh, I want to introduce you to somebody in the first 7 days earn $6.5 million. You always hear those stories, right? This guy sponsored everyone in his neighborhood, everyone at his church, but that's not the normal story. Too many times they use the exception as the sale rather than the norm. The norm is most people get in and they wander around for 6 months, a year, sometimes many years before they get in and get going. Bess can probably tell you this really easily, that there are people all over Facebook that she's talked to. Okay, sorry, I was just making sure of something. So it's just, what does it take? What does it take to get it done? Here's what I've found, is at a certain point, you make a decision where you're going to actually get started, and the first thing you do is like, what do I want? What am I doing this for? Figuring out why you're doing it, and I don't think it's even so much of figuring out the exact reason why you're doing it. Hey, I know I need something else, and you need the clarity of where you're going. If you don't have clarity of where you're going, what ends up happening is you go nowhere. The clarity of where you're going. Where are you going? At what steps are you taking? Because a lot of times you get started and you're like, I don't know what these steps are, so I'm not going to make any steps until I figure out what the steps are. And then once I figure out what the steps are, then I can kind of move forward. Most people don't blindly move to the next thing without understanding where they're headed. Just what I've seen, personally. So, the second thing that you're probably going to do outside of the clarity and figuring out where you're going is, what do I need to do? Like, what do I need to do? Well, A, you're going to have to start with a list. Most people are like, yeah, but I've already tried to talk to the people I know. And for those of you who've tried to talk to the people you know, if you try to talk to the people you know, but you talk to them in the wrong way, meaning you came at them as the excited, maybe ignorant person that started. You had no idea, right? It's not stupid. It's just ignorant. You just didn't know. And you came out there excited, trying to convince your friends. I don't know if anybody of you guilty here, but I was guilty. That you found a better way, that you know how to get there, and you found these people, and you found this business, and you found this opportunity, and you found it. And really, you came from a position of chasing people. That's how it comes across, is you were chasing them. And they ran away. And they gave excuses like, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't know anybody, those things aren't for me, I'm not looking, I'm not interested, I don't like those things, that's a pyramid, that's a triangle, that's I've heard lots of different versions of that. And I ran through all that. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to get started this time, and I'm going to build this from the idea of building a successful business, right? Whatever it is. I'm going to build this from a successful business. And the successful business that I'm personally going to build is going to create 6 figures. So this time, I'm not going to try to convince people. Like, I own a massage business. When I go out and I talk to people and people are like, hey, what do you do? I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to come into our place. I don't care if you live 7 hours away. You have to drive. Dave, get in your car. I know you live in Southern California, but get in your car. I know you already do this, and I know you probably already know something, but get in your car and drive out. You have to. Oh my gosh, our place is the best. It has the nicest front door. I mean, you know, people kind of highlight all the things that really don't make sense because I don't know what Dave would like or not like, but the fact is just trying to convince him to come to me isn't really going to work real well. Instead of saying, hey, Dave, I'm talking to David Roeder here. Dave, I know you're on the other side of the country, but if you ever knew anybody in Indianapolis that was looking, I'd love to be able to show you what I'm doing. So if you ever ran into the right person, you could refer them over to our studio. If I ever run into someone in California that's in your area, I'd love to be able to refer them to you. And you know what he'd say? Great. What all services do you? Like, all of a sudden, he's interested. Why? Because I didn't make it about him. I made it about me. That's how normally we share information. Hey, I just got started at this new job. It's really cool. Here's the people. I finally have, my own desk. I finally have my own office. I finally have my own business. You kind of casually tell people about what you do, but you don't bore them for 6 hours on the details, and you don't try to get them to come to your job, right? Most of the time. Most of the time. You just simply explain it. So you're basically going to have to sit down and figure out, what am I going to say to these people? And we found that the presentation revolves around 5 things. Number 1, it's going to revolve around the company, some details about the company. Number 2, it's going to revolve around the need of the products and the need that you cover with your products. Number 3 is the products themselves. Number 4, outside of the products themselves, number 4 is really going to be about what? It's going to be about the money and the compensation, that there's an opportunity, to work with us, and here's the couple different ways you can get involved, and then the timing and the talent. Here's the people around us. That's what we share. And you're going to have to get that down, and you want it in writing, so that way you can repeat the same thing every time. Guys, most of the presentation, it's boring, it's simple and it's boring, and it's simple and it's boring, and it's simple and it's boring. And it's over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's what we do. That's all we do. And the people who are the best at it stay excited about the boring stuff. Now, it would make sense that if you have the proper introduction, hey, do me a favor, I want to share with you what I'm doing, so if you run into the right person, here's the thing. Most of you are scared to death that when you say that to somebody, somebody's going to be like, well, what happened to the last thing you were in? Most people aren't going to ask you. You know why? Because most people are so caught up in what they're doing and their life and what's going on in their life, they don't care. Most of them don't care. I've heard this before. A third of the people want to know what you're doing. A third of the people don't care what you're doing. And a third of the people don't want to hear what you're doing anyway. Most people, they just don't care. And you can just tell them, like, hey, I want to share with you what I'm doing. People are like, all right, what are you doing? And if they say, what are you doing this time? Say, oh, yeah, I forgot that I even told you about what I was doing last time. I gained a bunch of knowledge from that to start doing what I'm doing now. But I don't want to, it's not really for you. If somebody's negative, I was like, yeah, it's really not for you, but you might be able to refer us to people. Because this time we're only looking for sharp people, and they said to practice on the dumbest people we know, and you were one of the top 10 people that I thought of. No, you don't say that. But, if somebody's really mean, I might say that, but they'd have to be a really mean and really good friend at the same time. Like, I would have to have permission. I'd be like, do I have permission to, like, totally make fun of us? And what I meant is fun of you, but, fun of us is what I say. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then I'm like, man, they told me to get the most skeptical, negative, just people that have no hope at all of ever being successful in this industry. And I thought of you. You were like top of the, I was like, this guy needs to see this. And you might think that's, crazy, but it's funny when you do that and you completely take it away how it works better. So, here's what we're going to do. From there, you present. And you present over and over and over again. And here's what you're going to find. Most people will shake their head and go, okay, great. It's not for me. It's not for me. Most people it's not for. Most people don't join the gym. Most people don't eat right. Most people don't invest most of their money. Most people don't travel to where they want to go. Most people don't live in the house they want to live in. They live in the house they can afford. Most people don't drive the car they want to drive. They drive the car they can afford. Most people don't spend time with the people they love. They spend time with the people they have to. That's most people. You're not looking for everyone. That was the hardest thing to figure out, is you're not looking for everybody. Most of us spend so much time trying to convince the person in front of us, because at least we have somebody who will listen to us, rather than going off and looking for somebody else. But here's what I found. When somebody's actually interested, do you know how easy it is? You explain it to them and they're like, well, how do I sign up in this thing? How do I get started? What do I do? Like, they will ask you. I've shown it to enough people that when I hit the right person, they just automatically will say, I'm ready. Like, how do I do this? How do I get in this? And when you tell them $100 or $200 or $500 or whatever it costs to get started in your program, because I know we have a lot of different programs we represent on this school, when you tell them how much, they don't even care. Like, the right person, they're like, oh, okay, that's great. That's cheaper than real estate school. That's cheaper than getting involved in this or that or whatever. That's way cheaper. Like, that's so much easier. That's awesome. So I let them, let's go, and then you have to make it easy enough to get signed up. If you don't know what to do to sign somebody up, you get somebody else on the phone who knows how to sign them up, and hey, I got somebody, they said they're ready. I just want to make sure that, I know this is my first couple people I'm signing up. I just want help to walk through those steps. And you walk them through those steps. From there, what do? You want to introduce them to the system. You want to introduce them to as many of the other steps as possible. Like what we're going to talk about over the next few weeks is an open house, a training. You want to introduce them to a seminar. You want to introduce them to a major function. You want to introduce them to other people in the program. You want to introduce them to a webinar or a Zoom. You want to introduce them third party. I don't care if it's three-way text, a phone call, whatever. You just introduce them. And what I found is the more steps you introduce them to, the more likely they will buy in. Like, if you created a list of things that you could introduce people to, and I'm just going to list the open house being 1, the training being 2, a regional event being 3, a major function of some kind or a major convention being 4. If you could introduce them to a personal development thing, if you could introduce them to, let's say, your upline support team, if you could introduce people to these programs at each one of these things, the more things that you're able to check off that they attend, the more likely they will engage without you. Without you. And if you can get that, watch this. If somebody goes to something without you calling them, like that's like hitting the lottery in network marketing. Right, Jim? That's like hitting the lottery. Because when you have people, I'll never forget the first time that I had that happen to me, where there was a guy that we recruited in Florida, and he calls us super excited. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be great. And we're going to take over Southern Florida. And I was like, who is this? They're like, I'm part of your team. I'm like, oh, great. I was like, whose leg are you in? And, we figured all that out. And I was like, what happened? He goes, oh my gosh, I just attended the blah, blah, blah state regional, and there were this guy and that guy. And I was just like, wow. I was like, I didn't even know those guys were speaking down there. Oh yeah, man, it's exciting. And, I went and, I can't remember if they had like a family member or a friend, but there was another person that they had recruited. And I was like, wow. And they're like, and we got signed up for the convention. And I was like, I almost was like, well, who allowed you to do that? Like, you're part of my team. I'm supposed to be the one to, and they just signed up. Why? Because somebody else. It was the system that kind of worked for me in that case. Now, most people won't make those steps without you helping them make those steps, without you looking it up and sending them and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that if you're from Colorado, or if you're from Alberta, Canada, or if you're from, Southern California, or you're from you know, wherever, West Virginia, hey, there's a meeting right by you. It's you know, 45 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. We had a guy drive 3.5 hours to his first regional. He called us. He was so excited. He was like, oh my gosh, the guy there, he was so, he's like, he's such a good speaker. You should have driven down and you should have listened to him because he's that good. He could have taught you stuff. And I'm like, I know he could have because I talk to him on a regular basis. I'm like, I listen and take notes when he talks. He's like, he's really good. I'm like, yeah, he is. And then all of a sudden he was engaged and more activity happens. How do you get people to do more activity? You don't. You don't. It's the system that makes, like, I don't make anybody do anything on my team. In fact, I might be too relaxed. I might be too relaxed about it. I don't force anybody to do anything. But the definition of a leader is a leader will get somebody to do something when they're there, otherwise they wouldn't have done it if they weren't there. Like, that's the definition of leading. You know, hey, I'm going to help you make the next step. Sometimes helping them make the next step is just reinforcement of, hey, did you know this exists? Then it goes from, hey, did you know this exists, to, you've called me several times telling me you want this to happen, but you're not willing to get in your car and drive 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour to the other side of town to do this. But you just told me a month ago you drove to Timbuktu to go to a flea market or look at, you know, a show, or, you know, to go to the movies or to pick something up. Like, you drove to the other side of the world for that, but you won't go an hour to your meeting. But you want to be retired. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because there is no gain without some kind of sacrifice. Like, the reason college costs money is because they know the people who sacrifice. If you really kind of, if you haven't figured this out, the reason why certain companies will only hire college graduates, I don't know if you figured this out, the reason why they'll do that is because a person has a certain time frame and financial commitment that they've invested, where they know if they hire that person's more likely to stay working because they have the debt to pay off, and because they've committed to a process that isn't necessarily fun and lovable all the time. Now I know. The only thing it really tells me as an employer, because I'm an employer, I actually employ people, the only thing it tells me is, hey, you are willing to commit for this amount of time and this amount of money, and you stuck with it till the end, and you completed, which tells me there's a greater chance that if I hire you, you'll work with me. That's it. It just tells me there's a greater chance. So when I look through the people that I recruit and I'm listening to their stories and I find somebody that's been on their job for years, or they committed to a certain career for years, I'm like, ooh, we found one. All right, we found one. There's somebody that will get in and commit. That's what I'm looking for. I've talked to other people that, well, I did this for a while and then I did that for a while. Not extra. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who work full-time and then they try to do a bunch of other things and they're well-rounded. That's great. I mean, Jim and I have a lot of interest outside of network marketing. There's real estate, and there's, you know, there's beekeeping, and there's skiing, and there's all kinds of other stuff that we're interested in. But there was always a main thing that kept us going, covered the basics, covered safety and security, and then there were the other fun things that we went out and did. And we experimented and tracked and looked at a bunch of different stuff. So you're kind of looking for that balance, somebody that can commit but is dissatisfied, looking for more, and ambitious. How do you figure that out? You figure that out by asking a lot of questions, by becoming friends with people. But first, before you become friends with everybody, wouldn't it be great to become friends with the people who already joined the team? I want to become friends with the people who already joined the team. There's some philosophies in network marketing that you're just supposed to build a relationship. Well, I'll be real honest. Shit, I don't have years to build relationships with all these people and then see if I can recruit them. Like, I don't have that kind of time. I don't know how many years you want to spend building relationships before it starts working, but I typically can meet somebody, pre-qualify them, build rapport. Where most people in sales talk about relationships, what you're really looking for is rapport. Rapport is the ability to relate to somebody very quickly, to like somebody, to know, like, and trust somebody very quickly, where somebody goes, you know what, I'll give them a chance. I'll give them a chance. I'll give this a shot. I kind of like them. I don't know them. I kind of like them. There's other people that trust them. I can see that group, and that's the whole idea of getting people into a group dynamic, and we'll talk about that over the next few training sessions, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, all of those training sessions have to do with getting people into a bigger environment where they buy in at a different level. And their level of commitment and their level of dream raises because they see more and more people involved. Right? So, 1, getting started right. 2, committing to that it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Most people don't get started just like this. That's why I teach building depth inside of organizations. I don't care what company you're with. I teach building depth inside of organizations. You know, some people are like in a binary and they're like, well, I'm going to put a couple people on this side and a couple people on this side so I can get a check. And I'm like, you're chasing money, not chasing security. You're chasing a bonus rather than building a business. That's not smart. Here's what you'll do. You'll lose if you try to do that. You'll lose. Here's the reason you'll lose is you're probably not going fast enough to keep up with attrition. But if I tell Jim, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put you in, and then I'm going to drive straight down underneath you. I'm going to ensure that the volume underneath will push you up whatever volume chart we're on. And almost every company works like that. Almost every company works like this. Whether you're in a binary or a unilevel or a unilevel binary or a 3x3 or a force matrix, typically if you build depth, that's the way it works. I will help build underneath. And I just build down and I build down, and I let people incubate at whatever speed they need. Some people need 6 days. Some people need 6 weeks. I've had a couple people that need 6 years. They're a little slow. They were a little undercooked when I found them, right? I mean, they didn't need a microwave. They needed a crock pot. They just needed to simmer for a while. And eventually boil off all the crap and garbage, and, you know, we had to wipe out some, as Bess, you know, talks about, you had to do some breakthroughs on, you know, old habits and old training. I will be honest, that's the majority of the stuff that I've worked on. The majority of the people, the majority of the stuff that I've taught is not this little, hey, do me a favor. It's helping people over a long period of time with whatever personal stuff they're in. And I usually don't help them. I just point them in the right direction. I said, hey, have you read this book? Hey, have you listened to this training, which is part 3. That's the reason personal development is so important. It's not just important for you to learn, but it's important for you to have a reference point. So when somebody comes to me and says, look, I would love to do this, but I'm having this huge relationship problem. I have that conversation with people all the time. A lot of people get into the business and they're like, network marketing's making me fight. I'm like, no, network marketing's making you talk. You're finally communicating with each other and you're not good at that. That's the reason you weren't talking before network marketing. And now all of a sudden you're arguing all the time about what you're doing because you actually have to communicate with the other person. People are like, man, this is hard. I'm like, yes, it is. I said, but it's also worth it because if you can get it done, then, you know, people are like, well, what if we build it? I had somebody ask me, they're like, what if I build it really big and we're still arguing? I said, then you can buy a bigger house and argue from the other side of the house. You can have 2 houses. And they just kind of laughed, and I laughed, and then Siri laughed, and then Echo laughed, and it was scary. Oh, Alexa laughed. That's the one. Echo's the other one. So my point to that is personal development helps you. You can point people in directions. For instance, if somebody says, well, I'm just having a problem meeting new people. I said, well, there's a couple books that would be very specific for meeting new people. One book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is one of the best books ever, but I think it's a really terrible book to start on. The reason being it's very hard to read. For me, that was the hardest book. Like, it took me probably 25 tries to read that book. Why? Because Dale Carnegie, the way he writes, is pretty story detail oriented, and I couldn't get through it. I read and I was like, okay, let's do the highlight. Smile. Okay, I got that one. Eye contact. I got that one. Talk about the other person. I got that one. Les Giblin, How to Have Power and Confidence in Dealing with People, was much easier to read. How to Make Friends in 30 Seconds or Less was much easier to read. Personality Profiling by Dr. Robert Rome was much easier to read. That was a great book on learning about personality, so that way when I was talking to somebody, I wasn't talking to. I will coach some people, and and I didn't even know it was called coaching, but it was funny. My friend, when I said I was going to go do John Maxwell and learn the coaching thing, he goes, well, actually, you've been doing that for 20 years. He goes, you just haven't charged for it. He goes, I hear you on the phone. That's coaching. He goes, you're never telling people exactly what to say, exactly what to do. You're asking them questions and having them come up with the answer. He goes, asking people questions and having them come up with the answer, letting them lead. He goes, that's what coaching actually is. Coaching is not telling people what to do. I was like, okay. He goes, so you've already been doing that. You just haven't been charging for it. Because I had read all these books, I would ask people questions about where they were at, and I was like, ooh, you probably need this. When I had somebody who ran into problem after problem, person after person, and they were just struggling and dealing with people, I said, do you know what personality type you have? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, there's 4 types. There's 4 dominant top personality types, and typically people will have one, and then they'll have 2 supporting, and then the third one they're completely ignorant of. And they're like, especially the people who have like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, look, most of the issues that you're bringing up with me is you not understanding, not the person, but you just don't understand the personality. You don't understand where they're coming from. So the best book to read, I'm not going to sit here and teach you this. What I do is I kind of sell it to them. I highlight, I said, look, here's the circle. Here's the 4 personalities. Here's what each one of them are looking for. And most people, I mean, if their eyes open and they're like, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so on my team. That's so-and-so on my team. That's so-and-so. Everybody's always able to point out what somebody else is. I said, well, where are you at on the chart? Well, I think I'm a little of this, a little of that. I said, why don't you read this book and tell me? Every time. I know the people who have read the book because they come back to me and they're like, I'm an idiot. I mean, every time they're like, I am an idiot. They're like, I now know exactly. And then we'll get into an argument later about something that somebody did or somebody said, and I'll be like, what personality was the person? And they're like, oh, my God, I forgot that again. I said, you're looking at it from your point of view, right? Yeah, I am. What is their personality? Their personality is the other side of the chart. Okay, if they're on the other side of the chart, what is their dominant goal in the conversation? They want to know how they feel. And then I'm like, yep, you got it. I said, so now how do you go back to that person and fix it? How do you go back to that person and figure it out? Those are the conversations that we really have. What is that about? That's personal development. Hey, I've never made it. Eventually people won't say it exactly, but they'll kind of be like, I've never really made it in anything. I've always, my relationship broke up, and then I was going to get this job, and I didn't, and then this happened, and it didn't happen, and it didn't work out, and I was going to play baseball, and I didn't play baseball. I said, there's a really cool book, John Maxwell, Failing Forward. If you read that book, Failing Forward, you'll probably have a completely different perspective on everything. Because if we put 2 dots like this, and this was failure, and this is success, you think every time you go out and show the plan, you're moving backwards towards failure, where in reality, every time you make a positive step, you're actually moving forward. It's just you don't have a tracking system to gauge where you're going. I can see you're getting better. People in the room can see you're getting better. But because you have this messed up gauge of moving forward, it's like a broken gas gauge. You driving longer thinking you have more gas rather than less. Like the weight is getting heavier. Like it's getting less. It's going to work for you. You just can't see it yet. And then we get to 4. 4 is market daily. 4 is market daily. How do you get yourself in a position where you're always marketing, where you're marketing what you're supposed to be marketing? What I've found is when you do the first 3 things regularly, the 4th thing starts to happen. The 4th thing, market daily, happens because you're doing your personal development and you have a need to share this stuff that you're learning. So here's a neat trick about market daily, social media, and connecting with people. If you read or listen to any type of personal development, every time you do, pick out the best quote, pick out the best story, pick out the best point. Whatever you learned, whatever that point is, and that's what you post on Facebook. That's what you text message to people. Whatever you learned. And when you're not learning, You feel like you don't have the right things to share. Wonder why. But when you are learning every day, when every day you're reading 10 to 15 pages, trust me, something every day will pop out and be like, oh, that's awesome. Wow. And whatever that is, that's what you need to share on Facebook. Hey, guys, I was just reading this book, and there's this awesome quote. You don't have to explain to them what you think it means. Let them come up with their own idea of what it means. They'll be like, I have people who reach back out to me after I put up some quote. Sometimes they're like, how did you know? I'm like, I didn't. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But everybody's at a point when they read it, it affects them differently. That's why they're good quotes. That's why they're probably in quotes, right? Somebody actually wrote me, they're like, oh my gosh, I love the way you quoted, like, Grant Cardone as you went through your notes. Because I put up all the chapters of, was it Sell or Be Sold? Yeah, I put up all the chapters of Sell or Be Sold that we went through, and what I learned from taking notes is the hashtag idea. I was like, anytime I need to put up a quote, what I'm going to do is, as I'm taking notes and I write the quote out, I actually put it in quotations, and I put a dash and then the pound sign, which is hashtagging, and I hashtag the name of the author. So to me, I'm like, ooh, that's a quote that I can use on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on and on and on. So when I read a book, that's how I take notes. It's very systematic, so I can turn around and take this information and use it as marketing to pull people back to people. Like, why do you get people reaching out to you all the time? Is it because you constantly talk about your business? Go on my Facebook page and try to find anything about what I'm doing. It's never there, is it? Ever. But people reach out to me all the time. Yeah, maybe like one or two every once in a while. People are like, I've had people like, I didn't even know you were in a company. You're in direct sales? Like, you sound like one of those guys, but I didn't even know you were in. I never put it out there. Here's the thing, I don't have to. And I learned this from experts in marketing, you will have more people come at you because of the positivity, because of the creativity, because of the help, because of the mission that you're about, than you will the actual company or product. If all you're doing is marketing the company and the product, what you look like is an info salesman that's horrible at your job, really. I mean, you know, the people who are like, buy my shit, buy my shit, buy my shit. That's like the constant message that goes out. Hey, are you looking? Hey, are you looking? Hey, are you looking? Opportunity, 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 opportunity. Most people will block you, just if you don't know that. Most people will be like, unfollow. That person's annoying. That person's an amateur. That person doesn't know what they're doing. But you put out quotes. I've had people come at me and be like, oh my gosh, have you read this book? Oh my gosh, have you read that book? Oh my gosh, do you know of that author? Oh my gosh, have you looked that up? Grant Cardone was actually a referral through somebody else. They're like, have you read any Grant Cardone stuff? Because you kind of sound like him every once in a while. I was like, well, I mean, I didn't know who he was. I was like, I don't know who he is. He's like, well, he's kind of a jerk and he's abrasive, but he's, you know, he does really well. I was like, okay, I'll look him up. And then I saw him a couple times and I was like, you know, and it's like like Gary Vaynerchuk, like I saw like a clip of him and I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe not. Like I just didn't grasp it the first time. Then I listened to another, and then I listened to about 10 minutes. Like one time I listened to the whole thing and I was like, oh, okay. And here's what I always look for. Now when I see somebody like that, I'll look for their story. Where did they come from? If I get their story of where they came from, now I know if it's real or if it's bullshit. That's what I look for. I look for if it's real or if it's made up. Because there's a lot of like, if you see the blueprint of how to create successful people, because there's actually classes on how to become a guru, and people can do it really, really fast. And if it's done really, really fast, John Maxwell talks about this. He goes, the reason we have so many Pop-Tart leaders is because we have so many microwave processes that produce these people who really don't have any background in doing what they're doing. He goes, the best ones, the seasoned people are more like the people who were the crock pot leaders who had to sit there and cook and cook and cook and cook until it penetrates all the way through them, and they are exactly who they say they're going to be. Because it took them years to get there. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about getting started right. We've talked about commitment. We've talked about Market Daily. I'm sorry, we talked about personal development, we talked about Market Daily, and then there's the presentation part, which we talked about last week, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Getting in front of new people, getting in front of new people, getting in front of new people, getting in front of new people. Guys, that's the hardest. It's the easiest thing to do, but it's the hardest thing to do. Why? What's easy to do is usually easy not to do. And the worst part is if you're not tracking what you're doing, you think you're doing a lot more than what you're doing. You think you're doing a lot more than what you're doing because you're not tracking it. Like, I had to write down at the beginning of every notebook, here's who I've talked to, so that way I can look back. It's a reference point. I need to look at the beginning of my notebook. How many people did I talk to this month? Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. It's three people. I better get, shift gears. And then all of a sudden I shift gears and I start doing 3 a day, 3 the next day, 3 the next. How long can I stay at 1 a day, 2 a day, 3 a day? Guys, I can tell you, 1 a day, 2 a day, 3 a day, like that pace. And here's just, if you can sustain 1 a day all year, you will beat everybody in your marketplace. Everybody. There's very few marketplaces on the planet that once a day, if you present to it, watch this, a new person, 365 new people. New people. Not talking to the same person 7,000 times. Like, I have somebody that I've actually worked with in network marketing over the course of probably 12 years. Every time I talk to them, no matter what company they're in, they're still working on the same person. Still working on it. I'm like, that person should look like David by now. Like, you have sculpted them for so long. They should have, like, perfectly round shoulders, waist. I mean, you've chipped at them and axed at them. I'm actually surprised you still know where they live. I'm surprised they didn't join the witness protection program just to get away from you. I mean, I say that jokingly, but I'm dead serious. And who wants to be worked on? Like, that's not the goal. But just one person a day, 365. If you double it and talk to two people, about 700 people in a year's time, you would absolutely destroy everybody, not only in your marketplace, but probably in the country you're in. And this is, watch this, this is even if you don't know anybody right now. Like, if you do it through leads, if you do it through going to the grocery store, if you do it standing on the side of the road. Like, I don't care how you find the people. I don't care how you find the people. So many people are so concerned with how you find the people. Who the hell cares how you find the people? Just once you find the people, it's kind of like the military. The military finds people in a lot of different ways, but no matter where they find them, they say, look, this is the next 7 weeks you're going through. Boot camp, right? Boot camp's the same. Doesn't matter where you came from. What's your background, what your religion, what age, where your parents were from. They don't care. They're like, it's the same thing. Boot camp. Network marketing's kind of similar. We don't care where you're from. We just want you to go through this process so that way you can get trained where you can go out and have a positive impact. It's simple. And in doing this, like, there's so many people who work so much harder, and spend so much more time, like years, to make this much money. And I'm like, that's awesome. You worked all month, 65 hours a week. I think I worked 6 hours this month and got to where you were. Maybe. Because of this process that I'm talking about, like how I've done it. I don't chase people down and track all this weird stuff. I'm like, did I get to show it to them? Yes. Did I put them in the CRM? Yes. Did I try to get them on the phone with somebody? Yes. They didn't get on the phone with somebody. Great. They're a follow-up for later. When I get somebody, I'll call them back and say, hey, do you want first position? Next. That's my follow-up process. People were like, people ask me, like, I was asked in a big conference, there was like 800 people in the room. They're like, Jeff, what's your follow-up process? Because you get a lot of people in who you talk to. What's your follow-up process? And I'm like, I don't have one. And they're like, yeah, but how do you track it? I was like, I have this notebook, and I wrote the people in it. And if I get somebody, then I go back to the beginning notebook for the year, and I go through all those people to see if anybody's still looking. And I do that every time. But if you don't track it, I was just talking to somebody about this. If you don't track it, what you do is you probably, that's the difference maker. and you making it big and not making it because you're probably not picking up enough of the other people who are kind of hanging on the vine there. You're probably not picking enough of them up to beat attrition. Because every time you recruit somebody, if you could go back and recruit one more person, think about that. That's double. Imagine in compounding interest if you could double what you make, how much faster it would grow. And then you teach that to your team. So what was I talking about? Presentations. So you're going to be bad before you're good. You're going to present to a bunch of people who are looking at the sky and looking at I have huge respect for like teachers, because I realize if I had 30 students knowing that 25 of them are usually not paying attention, I was like, damn, that's just like building a network marketing business. You have a couple people who are kind of paying attention every once in a while, making excuses, can't do this, can't do that, too much, too this, too that. You don't have to plug into anything. You plug into exactly what you want to. You learn what you want to. And we're going to make this as easy and as simple. Guys, here's the thing. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 other incomes before I hit network marketing. We have the holistic health, we have credit repair, because I made money coaching doing that. We have the real estate company. There's the marketing company. There's our investments. Well, actually, it's 6, and then network marketing. And I still outproduce and make more money. I would rather you guys have it like that, where it's something very, very part-time. You make really good money doing it. But think about this. We're in attraction. This is where it comes down. You're in the attraction business. You're attracting people. If you're not attractive, that's going to be really hard being in the attraction business. If your lifestyle, if what you're doing is not attractive. If people are like, ooh, man, I really don't want to do that. I really don't want to be on all this stuff. You know, I don't want to go to all those places. I don't want to do all that. That's fine. Don't do it. Don't do it. Do what you want to do, but make it work, and know the process you're going to take somebody through. When you get them in, where are they going next? What is the objective with this person? I want to expose you to these different things, and it's completely up to you whether you want to get started and get moving or not. If you don't want to get started, I will place somebody underneath you, and I will move on to the next person. And with that, I am going to turn this back over to Bess, and hopefully we'll have some questions here at the end.
Yeah, I know we want to get to people and give them the bulk of the time. Is it echoing? You good? Okay.
You're there.
So today I talked with a friend who is a top earner in his company. He's only been in it for a year, and now he's the top earner in his company in the U.S. And he was sharing with me how he recruits, and he says, I do teach funnels, but it's not a click funnel or anything. It's developing the relationship, you know, getting to know the person and hearing their pain point. You know, you talk with them, get to know them, to hear the pain point that maybe you can help. I said, this is exactly what I taught for a few years. And we start practice sessions and everything with network marketers. And then I got to talk with Jeff and learned more about his method. And Jeff pointed out to me that that only works with one of the 4 personalities, you know, either giving or receiving that. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, we have something that he's evolved that we teach within the school that works with all 4 personalities, is duplicatable, never gets a no, always gets a yes, doesn't get objections, and all that. So now he's taken a look at the book, at the Always Get a Yes book and the method, and I shared it with him right then. So he's going to take a look at that and maybe begin to integrate it with his team, and maybe even have faster results than before. This fellow was very interesting. He used to be in Amway a long time ago, and that comp plan, it turns out, has changed a lot, so it's no longer feasible for him to be in, but he was in about 4 other companies besides his current one, trying to find the right home for him. And some of them changed their comp plans, and he had to move on. But he's building this one for the last year, and he's encouraging his team, like we are with you guys, to learn this so well that you can train it. He was familiar with the 10 core and the Amway and Dexter Yeager and all that, where a lot of this came from. So he said Amway never had company conventions. it was the distributors who put on all the seminars and the regionals and all that stuff. So that's what he's doing with his team. And that means you have to know this stuff well enough to go ahead and teach it. So that's why we feel you're on the 10 core, and we encourage you to come back and learn it deeper each time. Could you teach any of this? Looking back at the first 5 core that Jeff just mentioned, could you teach it to your team? So stay on here and keep taking notes and keep learning till it sinks into you, until you soaks into your cells, until you put it into action in your business. And that's the best way to learn anything anyway, is to put it into action. So another cool thing that he does is every 2 months he has a potluck, a 2-day potluck at his place for his team. And he happens to have a large team, and they've built a big house and all that, and they have about 300 people come every 2 months that will stay over in the area, not at his house, but they'll stay over, and he can hold up to 300 people in one of the buildings there. I said, is that duplicatable? And he said, sure. Anybody could have 10 people over to their house, and when you get bigger, you can afford to have a bigger house and have more people over. But he encourages people to do that, to either come to his, and they come from the nearby states around, or they some of his other teams in other parts of the country, and they hold on the same 2 days, in different states throughout the U.S. They hold this 2-day potluck as well. And so when we get together, we don't even talk about business at all. They bring their spouses and their kids, and there's a pool where he is. They could stay over at a nearby hotel, and they all get together and they just have fun. They don't even talk about business. And I was talking with another friend today who said that the office that he's working in, they said, hey, Friday afternoon, by the way, we're all going to shut down and we're all going to go bowling. It's part of team building and all that, and learning to work as a team and also enjoying and playing together. So I thought that was a real cool idea. But the regionals, they put on their own regionals. He encourages his team to put on their own regionals within their company. And so to do that, he said a lot of the companies do not teach how to sell. They teach the product, the science behind it, the research, the specifics about the product, but they do not really cover or have time to in a company convention cover how to sell it, how to really connect with people like we're talking about, to develop that rapport. And so he said that's where like Eric Worre has stepped in and provided what was missing, that a lot of the leaders have gotten lazy and not teach that. So the company conventions don't cover it. The leaders don't really know how to do it. So Eric has stepped in, and that's really what we're doing with the 10 core commitments. That's what you're doing here, is you're gaining that missing piece about how to connect the product and the business with the people through the 10 core commitments. So if that helps me just to appreciate the school, appreciate what we're doing, and where we come in. And then where you come in is to learn this and be able to teach it to your team, or actually lead those regionals. Don't depend on your company to do that. So be self-sufficient and learn this stuff and be able to teach it. So I wanted to share a little bit about, since the new year's coming up, and we're doing a recap here of the 10 core, just to take a look over the 10 core. And which of those are you strong in? Which are you weak in? Let's go over the first 5 like we covered tonight. So have you gotten yourself started right? Do you know your goals, your why? Do you know the steps? Have you gone through all the steps, learning the back end, learning the favor script, using it, writing your 10-minute presentation? What are you strong in all that? What are you weak in all that? Are you strong in getting started right? And if you've gotten yourself started right, have you successfully gotten a new person on your team started right? Then you'll know what you know and don't know. And are you committed? Do you have the long-range vision? Do you look ahead, not just a year from now, but even more than that? And do you do your personal growth at work every day? And do you market daily? Do you reach out to new people? Do you do the invite script every day? And do you do presentations every day? So some of you have seen David Roeder's posts in the MLM Millionaire Academy Facebook group, where he is coming on and saying, hey, I contacted these people. One signed up as a distributor, one signed up as a customer. And he tells what he's doing and the results that he's getting. That's what, and I just want to congratulate you for David for doing that, and that's what we want to invite everybody to come on there and do. It not only helps to hold you accountable and have someone to celebrate with you and acknowledge you, but it inspires other people too. So that's one of the purposes of the group. And David's using it that way. So congratulations, kudos to him. Kudos to you, David. So when you look over the 10 core, which are you strong in? Or look over the first 5 core. Getting started right, be here a year from now, personal development, and invite daily, I'll say, and present daily. Which of these are you strong in? Which of these are you weak in? What can you do better going forward? The New Year's almost here. It's a great time to look over these commitments, your year, and say, what went well for me this year? What can I do more of? What can I do better? And here's a fun New Year's goal-setting exercise. You imagine yourself at the end of 2020, sitting by your pool, and you're waiting for the reporter to come in, who's going to interview you about what you did in 2020. This is the end of the year. And so you give this reporter your year's summary, what you did, what you accomplished, what rank you accomplished, how many people you got on your team, how many people that you helped, how many frontline people did you sponsor, how many people did they sponsor, how many conventions did you go to, how many people did you bring, how many people did they bring. And that would be your end of the year report for this reporter. And then tell them how you did it. What did you do the first month, second month, third month, and so on? And what method did you use? How many presentations did you do a day or a week to get that? And how did you get people started right? Are you doing your own weekly presentations, regionals, getting people to regionals? So I invite you to look over the 10 core and see your strengths, your weaknesses, and then outline exactly what you're going to do for 2020. Imagine you're telling somebody, hey, looking back, this is what I accomplished, and this is how I did it. We better get to people, hearing from you guys. And I also want to welcome Steve Redden, who jumped on, and I believe Donna from Indianapolis is on. Is that right? So let's start. What we'd like to hear from you now is, what did you like best so far about the 10 core, about these classes? What are your goals, and what can we do better for you?